Hey there. Ah, welcome to the live stream. I'm Father Roderick, and I am sick as a dog. Uh, I'm really not feeling well. I shouldn't be here. I will not be here. Right after I'm done recording this show, I'm going home and I'm going to bed. I think I have a beginning bronchitis. So I've been sick for about 3 days now without the possibility to be sick because there's so much work that needs to be done before Christmas. But we had a long meeting this morning. Did a lot of other work, but I feel that this is probably the last tiny little bit of energy that I can spend on recording this episode. So that's what I am going to do just to fulfill my obligations to the community. And I've got a headache you don't want to know. Um, One of the reasons I want to go home is that next week I have to really be in good shape because, well, Star Wars is approaching. I don't want to be sick or I don't want to be confronted with a chronic bronchitis when um, when Star Wars is premiering because I need to be there. Oh my gosh, what is this? Oh, sorry, I don't know. Oh, I was looking on the website. I wanted to see if the stream actually works before I go live, because otherwise I'm just talking to myself. That wouldn't be a very good idea. Uh, and hopefully I won't get a coughing fit during the recording. Okay, we're live. We're live. That's good. Get shareable link. Oh boy, oh boy. And let's put that up on Facebook. Recording my weekly show before I lose my voice. YouTube link. And boom. Why does Facebook always pick a thumbnail where I have my eyes closed? It's unbelievable. It's as if it's doing it on purpose. Really. Oh, I hate that. Anyway, it is what it is. Let's get the tweet deck. Let's put it up on Twitter. Okay, let's put this up here. Alrighty. There we go. Tweet it. I see so many baby Yodas in my timeline. It's crazy. All right, sorry about that. Wait a minute. Where do I close this window? I do it here. Hey, Mike. Hey, Brave Blast, Honking Clown, Chirk, Lexi, MN, Brenda. How I am today? I am sick. I'm sick as a dog. I shouldn't be here. I have bronchitis. And the reason that I'm here is, well, to record this show, but also because of a meeting that I couldn't postpone and a lot of other work that needs to be done. But I'm just recording this and then I'm going home and sleep. So, well, maybe handy to have some notes in front of me. Oh, I have no notes. Great. I'll just wing it then. Will you stream later? Not today, no. I'm just going to bed when I get back home. I'm really way too sick. Yeah. I'm just gonna completely make this one up. Oh my god. Hello and welcome to another episode of my weekly show. I'm Father Roderick. I'm recording this on the eve of the Feast of St. Nicholas, which is a big deal in the Netherlands. I'll talk about that and about other things in this show, provided that I get to the end of it, because, well, I'll tell you later why. First of all, I want to thank all my patrons over at patreon.com/FatherRoderick for their ongoing support of my efforts to bring you content on a weekly basis. Finally starting to implement the changes. We're going to simplify the tiers. We're going to make it much easier to become a patron, much cheaper also. And we've got some really nice surprises lined up for those of you that have been following me for years, missing the old stuff that used to be out there on the web. It is now completely gone. And yes, we're finally getting ready to produce these international documentaries about all my travels. And you can help me do that by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/FatherRoderick, because that will require some extra investments, especially when it comes to translating the stuff that I've done for a Dutch audience. I want to make that available to an international audience, but that is something I need help with. And so that is why I need your support. Thank you so much for considering it.
You know what's going on? This is what's happening in your world.
Face it, Catholics rule. We got Boston, South America, the good part of Ireland, and we're making serious inroads in Mozambique, baby.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
So here's what's happening in my part of the world. I'm sick. I woke up this morning. It was actually not the first day that I'm sick. I've been sick for about 3 or 4 days, but I didn't know what it was. It felt at first like a fever. I had incredible headache like I have right now. And I had this feverish feeling. I thought it was the flu. But you know, when your muscles are aching and you just feel terrible. And and it didn't get better. And then 2 days ago, I started developing this rumbling noise. I don't know how to describe it otherwise. It's this rumbling in the deeper parts of my lungs, like if there is something that's loose there. And every time you breathe, you hear that, like that. And you cough, but you feel that there's something stuck there, but it doesn't come out. And that's when I knew this is my old friend, inherited from the years that I studied in Rome, which is chronic bronchitis. This is something that the doctors in Rome warned me for. Back then, I've walked around with a lingering pneumonia for several months because I was misdiagnosed and mistreated by a local doctor there. And it's only in the hospital that they could see that it had damaged my lungs, and they warned me that, you know, every once in a while you'll get this chronic bronchitis, and then the only thing you can do is to rest. It's the best thing you can do. So that is what I need to do urgently, but I couldn't for the past few days because there's so much work that needs to be finished. I see that Hugo, my cameraman and a good friend in all our creative endeavors, is also in the chat room. He needs voiceovers for the Scotland episodes. And so that's why I'm still here. I'm trying to do everything that needs to be done so that I can be free for Christmas. But man, oh man, oh man, I don't have the margin to be sick. But when it happens, well, what are you going to do? So that's why I'm maybe not functioning at 100% during this show, but I'm still going to record something, because otherwise, well, what else am I going to do with my life, right? So hopefully the coughing will be reduced to a minimum. I'll try not to infect you, although there's not much chance. Lots of things to talk about. Of course, Star Wars is just around the corner. Yesterday I got a reminder from Disney why I haven't responded to their invitation for the red carpet premiere in Amsterdam yet. Well, I'm waiting for my brother to react because he needs to come
Not
with
like
me.
movies.
They're predictable. Like, the guy gets the girl, and that kid sees dead people, and Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Not liking movies is like not liking puppies.
They're fine. I just get bored and never make it to the end.
You know, you need a movie education. You need a movication. I'm gonna give it to you.
I'm really certain that we won't get bored with the ending of the Star Wars saga. I think we're in for a treat. I really have great confidence in JJ and what he's been doing with the story. And a lot of the elements that surprised us and shocked us, and also for some Star Wars fans really angered them, I think were inevitable if you follow just the story of The Force Awakens. So I think a lot of the things that oh, there's the bell, the doorbell. I hope Inge will answer it because I can't. I'm stuck here. Inge, can you please go down the stairs and answer the door? So it is. What was I going to say? Now I got distracted because it may be Amazon. I've ordered some stuff online, and is she going down the stairs? Now I'm getting worried. Okay, I'm gonna take a look. Hold on. I'll be back. God's sake. Always the same. Sorry about that. Let me explain what happened. So there's this boy, or actually he's a man, but he is, let's say, mentally impaired. He's also happens to be one of the acolytes. Problem is, he has these, I don't know, sometimes he gets fixated on something. And he keeps doing that over and over again. And so lately, he's been, every day that I'm here, he's been ringing the doorbell, and then he just stands there and is like, I will see you on Sunday, right? Yeah, I will see you on Sunday. And he keeps repeating that. And so now it's like, and every time I'm in the middle of something, and it's, what are you going to do? So it's really it's very irritating, but at the same time, because he has, like mentally doesn't always understand what's going on. So do you have to be strict? Do you have to set boundaries or not? And I'm more tempted to really, so I just yelled at him, I have no time, because there is no reason for him. And if you reward him by opening the door, he's going to repeat it, and it may get worse. So really, really, really obnoxious. That's one of the tricky things of being a priest. You're supposed to be, at least who tells me that, but in my mind, I always have to be kind. I always have to be patient. But to be honest, I'm not. And this just really ticks me off. It's like, oh, come on. Not again. Anyway. Where was I? Yeah, we were talking about Star Wars. So I have great confidence. I want to go to the premiere with my brother because we've seen all the Star Wars movies together. The thing is, the family of my brother is preparing to move, and so I've texted him several times. He doesn't pick up the phone. Like I need to answer Disney if we'll be together, because then I have to give them his data as well. But he doesn't answer, so I get a reminder yesterday evening, and like, oh my gosh, I only have a few days to answer, and I really want to go to that red carpet premiere. Anyway, well, we'll see. Speaking of Star Wars, I've been changing a little bit what I do on YouTube for the videos that I do about The Mandalorian. Instead of doing like this total recap and going through all the details, I tried something new and did like these very short form videos, more like some thoughts, like 5 thoughts or 5 ideas or 3 ideas. to see how that works. I definitely have to say that it's more. It feels like more like a thing that could eventually be the best way to approach this to generate some views. The only thing is I'm usually very late in recording these things. Like episode 3, I only recorded that 2 days ago because time, because too much on my mind. But I really think that if I focus more on the YouTube channel and try to build it up, but to do it really, really well instead of just winging it like I've been doing for 10 years, this channel has the potential to grow to several 100,000 viewers. I'm pretty confident that I could do that. But in order to do that, I need to free up time. I don't even have time to go to the movies anymore. The last time I was in the movie theater is like 3 months ago. So it's definitely something that requires me to make some choices. I talk a little bit more about that in the episode of The Walk that I recorded for you. So if you want to hear and this is still a process that I'm in the middle of, so I haven't made any decisions yet. But I feel that next year, I do want to make the choices that I won't regret. I often have the feeling that I'm living not my own life, but I'm living the life that other people expect of me, whether it's in the parish where there's a lot of pressure on me to go with the flow of just trying to keep everything up and running while everybody knows that this is absolutely impossible with 15 churches and 3 priests. And I think in the near future, there will only be 2 priests. You cannot possibly have 15 masses every weekend. It's impossible. It's already impossible right now. But what they do is they just let you like run around like a madman, and we're talking huge distances now. And something has got to give. I don't think that this is good for me. It's not good for vocations either, because, you know, when young people see this, it's like, why would you ever become a priest if the only type of priests that you see are just like these super managers that are like running around like idiots. But also something has to change, I think, in the way I approach. I just have to make choices. It's better to do one thing really well than to do 10 things, you know, in a very mediocre way. That is the gist of what I'm talking about on the episode of The Walk. But let's talk about movies and TV shows. There was some interesting news the other day, and I've already tested it out for you, that Plex is a service, a free app that you can install on your PC, and you can it's also available on a lot of the smart TVs, on all mobile devices. Plex lets you set up a media server on your own computer. And you can point it to the audiovisual content that you have. It can even play DVDs remotely and Blu-rays remotely. For a long time, I didn't have a Blu-ray player, but if I wanted to watch a Blu-ray on my home television, I would just launch it on the computer, and then via Plex I could watch it. But it's also for, you know, downloaded videos and stuff. But Plex now has, and this came out of the blue for a lot of people, they're going to offer movies. Lots and lots and lots of them. And they will finance it just by advertisement, but they vow that it's going to be much less advertisement than, for instance, on the free version of Hulu, which we don't have here. And that's one of their other big advantages, is that for all the movies that they're going to make available through Plex, they have international licenses, so they can bring these movies to 200 countries. So I immediately started to take a look. First thing that surprised me, you can't watch this on your computer. At least I haven't found out how. So normally I can also use my browser to go to the Plex server and then just watch my content there. This only seems to work on the apps. So I launched the Plex app on my, what is it? I think I've got an LG Smart TV. And I had to change some settings. So by default, I think my Plex installation didn't open up that content. But there are some tutorials on the Plex website. So I went to iTV, and I immediately, and all of a sudden, I saw a lot of content that they offered, or a lot. Actually, it was not much that they offered, but still interesting. I mean, these are free movies. So they've got Django from 1966, I think. They've got some really cheesy TV movie, but like the typical stuff, like low budget science fiction that you would see in the 90s. This is about two brothers that discover that there's a miniature army, basically an army out of toy soldiers that lives underneath the cupboard. And then all of a sudden they get sucked into that world and it's really bad, but it's so bad that it becomes like cult. And so I've been watching that with very much a lot of interest. I was like, those were the movies that you could get, when you went to the, how would you call that? The video store, like Blockbuster. Before the era of the DVDs, they would have these rows and rows of VHS cassettes that you could rent. And you could rent them for a day, or if you paid a little bit more, for an entire week. But sometimes you were just browsing and you would have these kind of like a movie. And this is, before the big era of the internet. You'd have these movies where the artwork was interesting, the premise was good, and you would just rent it. Oh, like, what the heck? Let's just try this out. And then you would like, oh my gosh, this is so cheesy. That's kind of the vibe that I get. At least very, low budget production. What was it called? I don't know. Something about an army. Anyway, this is one of the 6 or 7 movies that are on Plex right now. So hopefully they will bring us. They're going to bring us much more recent stuff as well. And the advertisements are just, I think it's just twice or 3 times per movie. So it's all very short. It's going to be interesting. What I liked about the initiative is that they also want to bring a lot of content from foreign countries that normally wouldn't end up on let's say the other streaming channels like Netflix. They're usually going for big budget productions. Plex is I think just taking the breadcrumbs under the table. But so this may also be a very interesting venue for my own stuff. I'm thinking, hey, I've got a lot of stuff that I think would totally work in a Plex environment, but maybe not the exact like 4K super quality that Netflix requires. So I'm going to keep an eye on how that develops. I really like the international flavor. So they've got some science fiction stuff. It's clearly also made in the era of, what was that first Cloverfield movie? And like the Blair Witch Project, like these very low budget, but really well thought out ideas. I see at least there was one science fiction movie that was filmed in that style, and I'm looking at that and thinking, whoa, I think my stuff would be definitely superior to this. So maybe that is definitely, I love it when distribution becomes more diverse. So it's definitely something to look into. What else have I been watching? Well, The Mandalorian, of course, but I already talk about that on YouTube. I've been continuing to watch just the usual stuff. Was there anything else that I don't think I've watched any movies lately? Who just gave me a thumbs down here on YouTube? Oh! Anyway, so yeah, I can't remember. Oh, yes, of course. I need to mention this channel that Cliff Ravenscraft helped me discover. It's on YouTube, and it's just a YouTube channel dedicated to documentaries. And there's some really good stuff there, and I had never seen it before. So let me see. Like there was this documentary about the tire industry that I've been watching part of, and it's about what a dirty business this actually is. And I like that it is all really good documentary. DW is the documentary maker. Yeah, so it's called DW Documentary, and they've got a lot of well-produced stuff. And I'm thinking if that works, they've got 1 million subscribers. So this is a documentary channel on YouTube, and it's all long form. So I'm thinking, well, if they can do that, why can't I? Anyway, so DW documentary. That's what it's called. It's time to visit the Peculiar Bunch to talk a little bit about Saint Nicholas.
Catholics rock!
Here at the Peculiar Bunch, we're always happy to tell you everything you always wanted to know about Catholics and their saints, but you were afraid to ask.
Catholics can be a peculiar bunch. No meat on Friday.
Oh, meat? What do they eat? Light bulbs?
And right now, I want to talk about the most important saint in the Netherlands, and it is Saint Nicholas, whose birthday we celebrate tomorrow, the 6th of December.
Man, you guys got more crazy rules than Blockbuster Video.
And before I tell you all about it, I want to say buongiorno to Christopher Terenziani, who is watching from Italy. Thank you for watching. Anyway, so Saint Nicholas is the best known saint in the Netherlands, even though his feast day has transformed into something that is way bigger than just a Catholic church. Originally, Saint Nicholas was celebrated in many parts of the world. For instance, in Italy, he's very well known. He's celebrated in Germany, in quite a few northern European countries. Lots of the lore around St. Nicholas was transferred to the United States and kind of mingled with other traditions, and that ultimately kind of turned into Santa Claus. You know, Santa Claus is itself a contraction of St. Nicholas, even though there are also many other influences on the Santa Claus mythology. St. Nicholas was one of the reasons that he's so important in the Netherlands was that he's the patron saint for the people at sea. So he's a saint from the early times of the church, early centuries, and as a bishop, he would help the poor, but he would also perform miracles, and sometimes people in boats in the middle of a storm would be miraculously saved by St. Nicholas. And since, of course, the Netherlands is a seafaring country, St. Nicholas is also the patron saint of Amsterdam. I bet you didn't know that. So, and St. Nicholas is also a feast that is linked to these winter celebrations, or also winter, how would you call it? Winter charity. Like I've explained this before, like Halloween originally was also one of those feasts where the poor would go from door to door on the eve of All Saints Day, All Hallows Day, and then the people with a little bit more money would give them clothes, food, whatever they needed in the wintertime. And so St. Nicholas, being himself also someone who helped the poor, was an inspiration for this children's feast that ultimately resulted in what we have today, where the children celebrate his coming amongst us. There's literally a guy with a beard dressed up as a bishop who arrives in the Netherlands on a boat, usually. The lore says that he's coming from Spain, and at night he rides on his horse over the rooftops and puts presents down the chimney. So the children put their shoes in front of the chimney. They sing a song. They put a carrot or something like that for the horse in the shoe, maybe a list or a drawing or something like that. And the next morning, St. Nicholas will have visited that chimney, and one of his aides will have put the presents, will go through the chimney and put the presents in the shoes. When I was a little boy, we didn't live in a house with a chimney. And so I was terrified that St. Nicholas wouldn't give us any presents. So our parents made us put our shoes in front of the central heating. And I was like, as a child, I just could not, of course he's a saint. He can't do miracles. How is it possible otherwise that these presents go through the central heating system and end up in our shoes? And we would, my mom reminded me that we lived on, I don't know, like the fourth floor of this apartment building. We also could see the roofs of the building on the other side of the road. And as a child, our imagination was so vivid that we we several times we would swear that we saw him riding on the rooftops on the other side of the street. So for us, there was no doubt that he was real. And I think it's a beautiful tradition. I wish that it would be less controversial, because right now it's very controversial in the Netherlands, not with children, but with adults. There are entire culture wars being fought in this country for 3-4 years now because of the helpers of St. Nicholas. We don't have fairy helpers like Santa Claus or dwarves. In our country, there's a tradition to have these helpers are wearing blackface. And for many years, nobody made a big deal out of that. The explanation that our parents gave us was that, well, since these helpers are going down the chimneys, that's why their faces are black. And as a child, you're like, yeah, sure. Then later on, you start to realize, and it's also because of the international pressure, like a lot of other countries were like, oh my goodness, that's such a racist thing there in the Netherlands that this tradition has to change. And of course, we get more and more migrants also in our country. They're also offended by this tradition. Not by St. Nicholas or by the gift giving, but by these helpers with blackface. There's a lot of division in society, and there are efforts to kind of turn this around. Well, if they would actually go through a chimney, their entire face wouldn't be black. Plus, of course, if it's because of the chimney that they're black, then why do they have the black curly hair and the red lips and the golden earrings? When I was young, these helpers were also usually portrayed as being super dumb and like being really clumsy, and they would talk with this kind of Jamaican accent. So definitely remember that there were quite a few racist elements in the depiction, but since in the society nobody made a point of this, nobody made a big deal out of this, there was not much controversy. And this is something of the last couple of years. But there's also a part of society that wants to hold on to this old tradition because all the traditions are now being diluted, and this is our feast, and it's never been racist, and you know what? It's all this controversy that I understand why it's so controversial, but I'm also thinking this whole helper, this guy, was invented by a teacher in the earlier part of the 20th century. So we're not talking about an existing tradition. This was made up by a guy in the time that racism was very normal, and the Netherlands has played a very dubious role overseas in exploiting and then also in slavery and whatnot. So if that tradition was introduced, then we can also change it. Actually, that is a normal ingredient of traditions, is that they change, that they adapt to new sensibilities, to changing culture. But you see this fear of change, this turns into this polarizing symbol for changes in general. That is why it is such a vivid and very controversial discussion right now. My prediction is this will take a couple more years, and then it will just transform into something else. That is just what traditions do. They change, they mutate, and it's true in the church as well. You sometimes see these wars on social media about, what is the real, true, only mass that you can celebrate. Of course, it's not this Novus Ordo, all this terrible stuff that was introduced with the Second Vatican Council. No, we need to go back to the way it has always been, and that is Latin Mass according to the Tridentine rite. Let me cough my lungs out here for a second. The people that are sometimes proponents of that type of tradition usually don't have much historical perspective either, because also the Tridentine, I think it's Tridentine, rite was only introduced during the Council of Trent. And before that, there was a lot of diversity in the way Mass was celebrated. So all these culture wars are so relative. That's why I never engage in them. It's like, this is just the way the cookie crumbles. Welcome to life on Earth. Traditions are changing. The way we do things in the church right now, 2 centuries from now, it's going to be totally different. And a lot of the stuff will stay the same. Foundations, the pillars are going to be the same. Dogma is going to stay the same. But the way that we express that, the way we celebrate that, that is always changing with the culture. And that's not a bad thing. A lot of the things that we hold dear around the Christmas celebrations, including a lot of the stuff that we do in the church, were also introduced many centuries after the birth of Christ. The whole nativity scene was invented by Saint Francis. So we're talking Middle Ages. This is not something that Christians have been doing, since the birth of Christ. And a lot of the like the Christmas tree, that was a pagan tradition that we just kind of integrated. And then we came up with, you can also see the Christmas tree as a symbol of everlasting life, because that's a tree that won't lose its foliage during the winter time. So that's like eternal life, where we will never die. And so it's always taking the culture, discerning what is compatible, what is not, and what can we transform. That's the way faith has always dealt with tradition. So it's kind of my father taught me this. We would have these discussions, and when I was 18 years old, I was very black and white. I was like, this is the only true way of celebrating Mass, and this priest is a good guy, and that priest is just evil because he forgot to kneel after the consecration or something like that. And my father was like, oh, come on. And then he would just tell us these long stories about liturgy and among the early Christians, and how that had changed, and how Latin was introduced, and where the chasubles come from. The chasubles that we wear in church, so that's what the priest wears. It's Roman attire. It's what the Romans, especially people in the Senate and stuff, the more important Roman people, would wear in the streets. So it's basically just street gear. Now we've completely turned that into sacred ornaments or vestments, but it's just something that we picked from the local culture in Rome and then just made it universal. So it's all relative. It still has meaning, and because it has meaning, it is important, but it's still relative. It's what Pope Francis said when he overheard someone making fun of the headdress of an Amazonian participant to this recent synod. He overheard this, like, oh, look at that with the stupid feathers. And then he said, well, you know what? The berettas that we give to the cardinals here, they're just as weird. That's not normal either. But so what? Why is one attire more noble or more normal than attire from another culture? It's an expression of something. And so with St. Nicholas, I think it's important to realize that this ultimately it's the feast day of a saint. And that saint gives us an example, that's what saints do, on how to live well and how to live a meaningful life that benefits others and not just yourself. That is what St. Nicholas has shown during his life. That is why we maintain this tradition, because it's something that we want to pass on to the next generation, to be generous, to help the poor. That, to me, is also the cure and the way out of this polarizing discussion, is refocus on the saint, on St. Nicholas, and on what he did for the poor. And the more we focus on the poor, the less time we have to fight with each other about ultimately things that, they're important, but still 10 years from now, this is going to be such a non-starter. This is not going to be a discussion anymore. That will change automatically. What won't change is why St. Nicholas is still relevant for the world of today.
When did you become an expert in thermonuclear astrophysics?
Last night. The packet. The extraction theory papers. Am I the only one who did the reading?
Ever since I switched to the new operating system on my Android phone, it doesn't recognize my fingerprints anymore. Huh. Oh well. I was opening the app that I'm using to listen to audiobooks here on my phone to give you the precise title of the book that I have been listening to for the past few days. It's called Better with Age: The Psychology of Successful Aging, written by Alan D. Castell. That's how you pronounce it, Castell. It's a book about aging, because, of course, I'm getting very old. Now, it's because, and it's also something that I talk about in the walk of this week. The older you get, actually, I've always considered getting older to be a benefit. I don't get it why that is such a problem. I started to lose my hair before I was 40 years old, and I really didn't bother. I didn't care about it. I have a friend of mine who's also a priest, and he is just so upset that the hair is turning gray. He's got a lot of hair. I'm thinking, dude, you still have hair that can turn gray. I don't have hair, and I don't make a point of that. It's not a big deal. But it's also what I've discovered over and over again is that getting older has a lot of benefits. You get wiser. You've got much more experience. You very quickly can see if something is really important or not so important. It's just very helpful to get older. Yes, there are some physical limitations. I can't run a marathon at the same speed as I could 10 years ago, but I can still run. And if I can't run, I can still walk. I was triggered to read this book because I was trying out this new social network, Chinese social network called TikTok. It's not so well known in the United States, and there are some concerns about because it originates from China, even though there's a Chinese version of TikTok, which is heavily censored, and there's an international version, which according to the company that owns TikTok is independent and is not monitored by the Chinese state. So they say. Anyway, but in the Netherlands and in a number of other countries here in Europe, this is the fastest growing social network for teens. This has already surpassed Instagram. And so I just wanted to try it out and see what it is. And I was very intrigued. It is almost a copy of Vine. Remember that Vine when Twitter had Vine? These like 15 seconds video. There is also an option to do like a 1 minute video, but that's about it. And it is completely algorithm driven. So it's not with Vine, you had to go to Vine, but you could still follow people or search for certain streams. Not here. It immediately starts playing a video, you swipe up, and the more you use it, the more you like, the more you subscribe to certain people, the better it starts to distill what kind of content is interesting for you. But so you have, as a content creator, it's very hard to bring people to you. You have to make sure that your content does that. So anyway, like 90% of the videos are made by teens, and it's about teen stuff. So it doesn't go very deep. This is not the place for, deep theological thoughts or something like that. But you also see the occasional old people. And I was laughing out loud. There's this one lady, and I was just swiping up, and so I gave my age when I signed up. So probably it's like, okay, well, we can serve this old guy some old people. So you've got this woman, and she's like, oh, I shouldn't be here on TikTok because I feel so sorry, but I was so intrigued, but everybody's so young here, and I'm so old. I'm 30 years old. And I'm on TikTok, and I like it here. Can I please have some subscribers? And I'm looking at that lady. I'm like, girl, you're 30 years old, and you call yourself old? You're a kid. You're a kid. 30 years is not old. How dare you say that is old? If old you are like me, not as good looking you will be. Something along those lines. But I'm thinking, what would Yoda do on TikTok? But it's also relative. But it's like, okay, that is someone who really does not age gracefully, in the sense that it's all about perspective. It's all about how do you look at getting older. So anyway, this is supposed to be a book review. This is an okay book. Yeah, it's a little bit long-winded sometimes. It's not very well written. It's also not very well narrated. It's not narrated by the author. There's a lot of like the first 2 chapters is just, in this book we will, and it's like, just get to just don't announce what you're gonna do, just do it. Anyway, but there are some interesting thoughts about the advantage of getting older. It's all about mindset, basically. It's all about your attitude. And it's also reassuring because it goes in depth about, how your brain functions when you get older, and so a lot of the worries, the stuff that people worry about, is actually not much to worry about. What matters is the choices you make. Make the right choices. And especially this one thing that I talk about on the episode of The Walk is this question: if you look back on your life, what would you have done differently? And then most people what they regret the most is that they haven't lived their own life. They've lived the life that other people wanted them to live. And I was thinking, like, when I'm listening to this book, I'm constantly okay, I need to make choices. I need to do what I want to do and not just go for the deadlines and focusing on all this short-term stuff. Confidently go in the direction that you know you have to go, and let go of the small stuff. Don't sweat it. Don't mind letting go. One of the things that I got really worked up about was in the parish, this running around. And I'm not in charge, I want to help, but I'm only an assistant priest. So the pastor very much really wants to kind of keep everything the way it is. And so as a result, I have to run around. It's just crazy. Sometimes I have to drive for half an hour to go to a church, only to hear that the pastor who lives next door to that church is celebrating Mass in the church that I live next door to, talking about, destroying the environment and wasting energy. And I've been so worked up about that. And then every time I try to bring it up, it doesn't seem to really register. And then for the next year, I see that on a number of Sundays, I'm scheduled to say Mass, but they've placed Mass at like 10 o'clock or 10:30, which means I can only celebrate one Mass that Sunday. Whereas in the past, I made sure when I was still the pastor, I would say, well, let's do one Mass at 9:30 and the other Mass at 11, so I can go to 2 communities. No extra effort for me. I've already thought about the homily, and I enjoy going to these communities and seeing people on a regular basis. Well, this is out of my hands. And so it's just one of the listening to this book, I was like, okay, I will never win this war. I cannot convince the people in charge to change this. I tried. So there are 2 options. I can either say, I let go in the sense that I don't care anymore. Like, whatever. I'll just do one Mass that Sunday. Or I can let go in the sense that I can let go of, being polite and kind and patient. And I can just say, well, hey, if you only put me on Sunday at 10 o'clock or 10:30, I'll go elsewhere. There are many, many churches without a priest. And I'm pretty sure that if I would put up a post on Facebook and I would say, hey, I'm available for 2 Masses, provided that one community picks the 9:30 and the other one picks the 11, I'd be happy to come. My inbox would be overflowing with invites. So I can also go that way. The thing is, I don't want to stick with the status quo that makes me unhappy, because that is what I'm going to regret later. So anyway, those are some thoughts why reading the book. The book itself is not such an interesting experience, but it helps me to reflect upon my own situation. Now that I'm getting older, I'm thinking about my dad, who has worked so hard for all his life. He was definitely addicted to his work, and so much so He was a judge. He worked for a diocese, and so he's done a lot of like high level stuff. He was always working, and we feared that once he would retire, that his life would completely fall apart. Not at all. He would just do other stuff, but the only thing that he didn't invest in was a healthy lifestyle. He never walked. He walked the dog. That was about it. He smoked. He drank way more than was good for him, probably. And he was always stressed. And as a young boy, when he first met my mom, he loved to travel. They would go to Scotland every year. And once work took over, he never did that anymore. And so I'm thinking, well, and now he's of course in a foster, or not, he's in a home, and he's mentally, he's got, well, it's getting better short term, but still it's a lot of effects of dementia. And I think it's there are a lot of missed opportunities there. And I'm thinking, I don't want to follow his example in getting addicted. I don't want to just work for the sake of other people's agenda. I want to, if I invest my energy and my talents, I want to invest it in what I believe is my vocation, and not just what other people have imposed on me. And that's also true for my vocation in the church. I want to feel that I'm doing what God wants me to do. And there's this constant tension between, okay, I feel that this is not what I should do. There's also obedience in the church. What does obedience mean? It's like in an army where you just follow orders? I don't think so. Obedience is also being obedient to God. It's not easy to make the right choices, but I feel that I need to think about these things and I need to take some decisions. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
We are on the cutting edge of technology.
Wow. Well, what does that mean?
Just plug it in. It's going to say, hey, I see you plugged in a new device. And it's going to load in the appropriate drivers. You'll notice that this scanner built... Whoa.
Well, all your technology stuff, it just ends in disaster.
But there is one more thing.
I want to give you one more thing at the end of this show, and that is... I've got new eyes. That's how it feels when I'm at home and I sit behind a computer. I was getting. It's also a sign of getting older. My eyes are getting worse, definitely, and especially these last few months. My short-sightedness has increased, so it's harder for me to read like small letters on my phone, for instance. That's why I'm so happy that my new phone is so much bigger, because it's easier to read. And I used to have a monitor, like a widescreen monitor, but it was giving me a headache. Then I went to the optometrist. I got new glasses, computer glasses. They are focusing on what's in front of you, about 90 centimeters away from my eyes. That worked fine, but I'm still getting a headache, and I was squinting a lot. And I do a lot behind a computer. So I was like, well, I have this TV. Why don't I just use the TV as a monitor? And it's like a 48-inch TV. And so I put that thing in front of me, and all of a sudden I could just do my computer stuff and gaming without having to use glasses. And I also like the immersion, especially when I was playing video games. Like if you watch my trailer reactions, the ones where I'm sitting behind a computer, you'll see my head literally moving because I'm trying to take it all in. That's because I've got this huge TV in front of me instead of this tiny monitor. But lately, I was noticing, and this is also a side effect of streaming some of my gaming sessions. I noticed that actually a HD screen is pretty small if you also want to monitor what's happening in the chat. And I couldn't figure out how to do that. If you're playing a game full screen, there was no more room. I was like, I'm not going to put a second TV on this table. There's no room for that. So how am I going to solve this? And I was like, well, simple. I'll just get myself a 4K TV so that I can play a game in part of the screen, and I have plenty of resolution for, let's say, the chat room and the streaming software. So, of course, being Dutch, I was waiting for a good deal. And I finally got one on the Italian Amazon site. And it was a Philips TV, which had this nice backlight. So it projects LED. It has LEDs in the back, and it looks at the screen and then projects a color so that it becomes more immersive even. And it was dirt cheap. I think I paid like $300 for a 49-incher 4K TV. With those LEDs. I was like, okay, sure, let me do that. So that arrived 2 days ago. At first, I was like, oh, it's going to be another big box, and how do I get that thing upstairs? But then I realized, well, this is a modern TV. It doesn't weigh much. So the entire box that arrived, including the TV, but also all the other stuff that was in there, was just 20 kilos. I can carry 20 kilos up the stairs. So I did that. I was like, okay, just go for it. I was already sick. So let's do this. Why did I think that I was sick? Oh yeah. I was like, oh, okay. It's not that I feel fit enough to do anything else. Let's just waste my sickness on installing this new TV. So get rid of the old TV, put the new TV on the table, and then I was like, okay, let's install this. And I always have this lingering feeling that, provided there's nothing wrong with the TV, because then I have to send it back to Italy. And it's always such a hassle with these heavy things. So I'm just praying that it's okay, it's not broken. Well, it turns on, and it says, hey, you got to sync your remote control. There's this super duper new remote control, even has a keyboard on the back and everything, so you have to synchronize it, and so that it pairs. So it starts to pair, and then the entire everything seems to work fine, and it's like, okay, this is great. Let's set up this thing and use it as a monitor. And then I pair the remote, and then I get this warning on the screen that says, your remote has an update. Would you like to install the update? I was like, oh, it's probably a firmware thing. So I do, yes, sure. So it starts updating the remote control via Bluetooth or whatever. And then it's updated. And then I relaunched the TV. And then it's like, okay, that's up to date. Let's connect the computer. Nothing. Dark screen. I'm like, oh no. I was like, okay. So I tried it. There's this. I couldn't get it to work. So there was not even a welcome screen. Nothing. It's just, and I could see that the screen was lighting up, but there was just no input signal. How am I going to do this? The remote did not react at all, or the TV didn't react to the remote. So reading up on the web, because I don't want to call the help desk in Italy. My Italian is not good enough to get this to work. So anyway, finally I find there's a way to reset the TV by doing this. Like, you have to disconnect it from the electricity, wait for 5 minutes, and then plug it in. And then it says, you have to sync your remote. So I'm syncing the remote again, and then it doesn't work. It stays in this loop of the remote. You have to sync the remote. And it says, we're saving. Yes, we've recognized the remote control. We're saving the data now. Please sync your remote. No, it doesn't work. And then I started to realize, I think I know what went wrong. The remote was updated, but the TV probably still runs on the firmware from 2018. And now that the remote is updated, there's probably going to be this disconnect because the TV doesn't have the software that it needs to talk to the remote control. What am I going to do? There's got to be an app for that. Yes, turns out there is a remote control app that I installed on the Android. And then you have to pair it with the TV. And for some reason, the TV, because fortunately I'd already connected the TV to the internet, to the Wi-Fi network. So through Wi-Fi, even though the TV is completely dark, on the app can see the TV. So I have to then pair the app, which is a very bad app, super slow. I'm trying to pair it with the TV, and then finally it works. And there's something on the screen of the TV. And then I'm like, okay, so how do I update the TV now? And every time I would do something on the app, it would like take 5 seconds to register on the TV. Like, so every time I was like, oh, okay, I activated this, and then it activated the wrong thing on the menu on the TV. So with a lot of patience, this took me like 3 hours and a lot of coughing fits. Finally, I find the menu entry that updates the TV. And then I'm just praying like, please work, please work. It takes like an hour for that TV to update. And then it gets back. And still the remote doesn't work. But through the app, I can get it to work. And at least I know the TV is not broken. It's just there's this syncing problem or anything. So anyway, I install all the updates, connect my computer, and lo and behold, boom, it's there. And of course, it looks horrible because these TVs in their standard configuration are all programmed to wow the people in the store. So it's like they've got like extra sharpness, they've got this fake HDR, they've got motion blur, and oh boy. So you have to go and find out how to turn everything off. And now it works. And once I did that, all of a sudden the remote control works again. So it recognized the remote control, and all is fine right now. But man, why is all new technology always giving me all this heartache? It's like, why can't it just work like Apple used to do? Anyway, I'm so glad that it works. And I have to say, it is absolutely as if I've got new eyes. I did not realize how much of a difference it is to look at this high definition screen compared to well, never thought I would call HD low resolution, but it is. And what's also pretty cool is that I discovered that Windows has this automatic upscaling. So it just asks you, like, do you want me to upscale all the apps to, regular settings for this size of the screen? And at first I was like, whoa, this browser looks all so sharp. And then I'm realizing, well, wait a minute, the browser has the same size as it had on the HD TV. And so it turns out there's a setting in Windows where right now it's on 150%. So that gives me enough because when I do it one-on-one, when it's just 4K, as if you have 4 TVs in front of you, it's too small. I can't read it, not even with my glasses on. But if I put it on 150, it is a little bit smaller, but it's razor sharp than on my old computer or old screen. But I have much more real estate. So I can now put both a gaming window, I can all sorts of windows. It's also really great if you want to do multiple things. I always have 100 tabs open. I'm old. So sometimes I'll just take a YouTube tab, take it out of the browser, put it elsewhere on the screen, do my email while I'm watching this YouTube video. So it's pretty cool. And again, what really makes it so much better than what I used to have is this backlight, this LED light. It's amazing how much that just adds atmosphere. I've got it against a white wall, so it gives a lot of when you're watching a YouTube video full screen or playing a video game, it's unbelievably cool to see that. Like I was playing Lotro the other day, and I was in the Shire, and all of a sudden my entire room is green because it takes all the colors of the Shire, projects them on the wall, and so it's like this, like I am in Middle Earth. It's almost 3D. Very, very cool. Now, of course, it's 4K, so my computer is having a hard time generating all that content. Lotro is an old game, so that's fine, but I don't think I can play newer games with my current graphics card, or the graphics card is pretty new as well. It's a 1060. but the processor in my computer is 5 years old. It's one of the earliest i7, so it's really in need of a refurbishment. So that's going to be one of the projects for my vacation, building or rebuilding my computer, because it doesn't really need complete overhaul, but it definitely needs a new logic board and a new processor. And there you go. My coughing fit is telling me it's time to wrap up before I die of lack of how do you call that? Cheer stuff. Oh gosh, air, breathable air. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with me. I'll be back whenever I can. Talk to you later. Bye. Okay, that's a wrap. I'm gonna put this audio is gonna fall away for a second. Okay. I'm back. I should be back. Sorry, this took a long time. It's transferring the file with the recording to my computer so I can edit it. So this is what is it? 0. What's the episode number? 031. No. 131. Okay, 0131. That needs to be opened with Adobe Audition. I'll probably get a warning that that doesn't work. Okay, no pressure. Of course, I could do this some other time, but I just want to get this show out of the door, but everything is so slow. So I'm opening this in Audition. Oh no, now I need to sign in again. Continue. Passwords. What a hassle. Come on, come on, come on, come on. That's what you get from working on all these different computers. Adobe only allows you to stay logged into 1 or 2, I think. So every time you use it at home, for instance, I need to log out, log in again. What? Okay, let's try again. Log in. Password. So what I normally have to do, this Roadcaster records everything in waveform, but that's 1 gigabyte. I'm not going to put that in a podcast feed. So I then have to open it in... my goodness, this is taking such a long time. I have to open it in Adobe Audition. What is this? Come on. Sign out of the home PC. Continue. Then I have the entire file. Oh, come on. Go away. Oh, for God's sake. Such a hassle. But it's saving us a lot of money. Yeah, oh, and the updates. Yeah, then it's going to update. It's the worst. Microsoft also does it always. You switch on your computer. All your files are still there. I just need to... 10 minutes. 2 hours later. Okay. Finally, Adobe works. Why can't they just trust me? There it is. And now what I need to do is I'm going to up the volume on that, or I'm going to normalize it so that it sounds good on all devices. I hate it when podcasts are not normalized. So you're like, my iPad can't go loud enough for most of them. And then I save the file as an MP3 onto a Google Drive. Google Drive. Come on. Here. 131. Yes, in the form of an MP3. Save. And then, of course, the bit rate should be 120. Okay. Okay. Yes. So much time. Okay. We'll fill in the details later. How should I call this episode? I'll call it Plex. Plex Television. Review. What else have we talked about? Getting older. No, what was the thing? Better with age. Successful aging. Successful aging. 4K TV. Oh no, St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas. Is Nicholas with a CH? No, don't think so. And setting up a 4K TV. Something like that. It's not the best title, but it'll have to do. All right. I think it's all there, Inge. Not sure. All right. So in the meantime, let me quickly record my show for the patrons. That one will be posted later because Inge wants to go home, and so do I. But I still need to record it. Hello and welcome to the After Show. I'm Father Roderick, and this is, if you're listening to this, you are either watching this live, which is a very small group of people, or you're a patron. And good things are coming for the patrons. We're hoping to get that completely done before Christmas time, at least to have the new tiers in place and to send out the first volley of rewards for those of you that are at the various levels. And I'm feeling really good about what we have come up with, and I'm pretty sure you'll like what we have in store for you. So thank you so much for being a supporter. This is like the last 10 minutes of energy that I have left, and then I go home and probably pass out because I don't feel very good. But I'm not the only one, because there are some people that are also ill in the chat room. Kieran has the chicken pox, which is pretty nasty. I hope you get better soon. I've had that as a child, and then you can't really get it anymore. But it's highly contagious in the first stages. I actually had like side effects of chickenpox a couple of years ago, and I was so stressed that I got like this virus can reactivate, but not in the same way as chickenpox. I forgot the details, but it was nasty. Let's see. So Crumply Noodly says, I don't hear any problems in your voice, but that's in real life. I sound, it's because of this is such a good microphone. But in reality, I do sound sick. Yoda, where does Yoda come from? Brave Blast wants to know. If I only knew. It's so funny that Baby Yoda is taking over the world. At first, I was trying to really not talk about Baby Yoda because I didn't want to spoil it for those people that haven't seen the Mandalorian episodes yet. But now it's such a meme, you can't escape it. So I guess it's just public domain now. Viking Jedi wants to know who my favorite character is in the whole saga. I have to say it's Luke Skywalker, because I had identified with Luke Skywalker when I was a kid. So hope to see him in the last episode as a Force ghost or something like that. While I was recording the regular show, there was someone who was at the door, and I was like, ugh. It was not someone that I wanted to see at that moment. So Hugo says maybe a doorbell cam is a good idea. Maybe it is, but I still have to go to the camera and then answer the person at the door. And I'm not so sure about, didn't Amazon buy this doorbell manufacturer? I'm not sure if it's yet another, not a security, but it's a data problem. What are they doing with these images, and how well protected are you? Maybe here in the UK, or not in the UK, in Europe, we're more protected because of our stringent laws when it comes to information sharing. But I don't know. It is a camera after all. What is the best argument to use against Star Wars pessimists? Star Wars is not about pessimism, it's about hope. If you don't get that, then you are not a Star Wars fan and you shouldn't watch Star Wars. Go watch some depressing post-apocalyptic series instead. We're following you from Italy, says Christopher. Very good. Dzień dobry, Maszek from Poland. Francesco is also watching from Italy. And Frédéric is watching from Lyon. On vous attend pour la fête des Lumières. I wish I could go to France, but I don't have time. What is my view regarding Black Pete? I've explained that during the regular show. Am I hyped up for the new Star Wars film? Yes, I got an invite for the red carpet premiere in Amsterdam, so that's going to be big. And I'm almost a bit sad because that's going to be one of the last times that I will be invited for a Star Wars premiere, unless I convince Disney in the Netherlands to also invite me for all the Marvel movies. But I'm kind of on their radar as a Star Wars priest and not that much as a Marvel priest. But I'll talk to some people. Margot says, I wish we had more voices like you in these culture wars. In the US, so many of the public voices of the church are the more culturally conservative ones. There's such a strong conflation of... I noticed that, yeah. Your tweet continues. A conflation of essential Catholic elements, mainly opposition to abortion, with other socially conservative elements such as those you described here. I'm so glad you include these issues in your show. You are a breath of fresh air. Thank you. Well, it's these culture wars are also affecting Catholics here in the Netherlands. But I still think that it's what bugs me most about these culture wars is that they're oftentimes devoid of hope. They're always filled with this bitterness, this also a lot. It's very aggressive. It's not compassionate. I don't find that attitude in the Bible. In fact, I find a lot of exhortations from St. Paul and others to be kind, to be patient, to understand. It doesn't mean you don't have to fight for what is morally right, but it's the tone, it's the whole atmosphere. There's so much sadness in those circles, and it's almost a drug. The more you are upset or you let yourself be upset about something, the more it becomes an addiction. And I think we need to rediscover that being a Catholic means you have to be like a child. A child can be upset about something, but can also still see wonder in the world the way it is, and be hopeful and expect things. And I think the current climate in the United States is polluting the world. A lot of that also comes over here, and I'm not very happy with those developments. I think normally in the Netherlands we have a much more civilized way of treating each other, but it's poisoning also our communities. And the best way is to not enter those culture wars, to always take the high road, be kind, just basically do what the gospel tells you to do, and all the rest will follow. What religious order are you in? Liam wants to know. I'm just a regular priest, just a regular stormtrooper. Nothing special, nothing fancy. Ivan is happy to finally catch the show live. That's very cool. Margot says, when someone younger than I am laments how old they are getting, I just threaten to spit my dentures at them or beat them with my walker. I remember that. I need to visit the optometrist. Yes, I definitely need more new glasses. It's just, again, lack of time. I need new glasses, but it takes a lot of time. Actually, I want to get these contact lenses that are dual focus. But it's a tricky thing because I don't really like to wear glasses because I'm using camera so much, and the glasses always get fogged up, and it's a hassle. So, and my eyes are just not working very well when I have to read small stuff. But I've heard that there are these contact lenses that are like there is a ring around it that focuses on nearby stuff, and then the center is for far away stuff. And your brain actually sees both, but will switch and will decide like, oh, now I need to take that visual information. It sounds magic, but apparently it's also tricky because it takes a lot of adjusting and it's to get it right. But it is possible, so I want to see if I can get that solution, because that would help me most of the time during my work, where I have to quickly switch between being able to see far away, but also I have to look at my equipment that I'm using or read stuff, and I don't want to carry glasses with me. I work light. I travel light. Glasses are always a hassle when you're on the run. So, am I a Windows person or a Mac person? Well, I'm sitting behind a Mac, but I'm also a Windows person. I'm a computer person. So, 20 kilos. Yeah, when I carried up the TV, it's literally a bag of cement. Jester, that's how strong I am. I shouldn't laugh. It's not good for my lungs. So, so Bonita says secular in American English means apart from the church or non-faith based. True. Hugo says, just take a good glass of whiskey tonight. I happen to have a good bottle, a green carton box with a nice bottle in there that may be a good medicine for my throat right now. At what age can we call you grandfather? I'd say 85 years old. Callum says, have you played Jedi Fallen Order? No, I haven't bought the game yet. I'm waiting for the game to go down in price. And I need some chicken soup. Maybe, yes. So, anyway, I think that's about it. I need to... why are Catholics so much more fun than Protestants? I don't know. Protestants can be fun as well, don't they? You should probably ask a Protestant. Allora. Okay, what else am I reading here? Oh, shingles. Yeah, shingles is definitely, that was the word that I was looking for. So I got shingles because I had chickenpox when I was a kid. Podcasting is therapeutic for me, definitely. I sound so much better than when I started. Yeah. Some Euro Truck Simulator news. Road to the Black Sea should be released today. Oh, cool. Also, for those expansions, I'm just waiting for a good deal. All right, I think that's... can you be religious but not believe in God? I would say that's more like I can be spiritual. But if you believe in God... If you don't believe in God, it's more like either you're agnostic, so you don't know, but you're not really thinking about it, or it doesn't really matter to you if there is a deity or not, or you're an atheist, which means there is no God. Atheism in itself has a lot of elements that are very religious. Someone told me atheism is the religion that has the biggest problem to retain its members. I was like, interesting. Yeah, religion is something you see in all cultures and all ages. So it's probably something that is somehow in part of who we are. There may be a reason for that. Think about it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for bearing with me, and I'll be back. Hey guys, thanks for watching.